Quick one. If you'd like to support us on our journey to 1,000, please do consider subscribing or following this podcast, wherever it is you're listening to this. Thank you. Hello, everybody, and welcome to 1,000 Voices, where we are on a mission to interview 1,000 inspirational Black Britons. And oh boy, do we have an inspirational interview for you today. Today, we spoke with the amazing Lavinya Stennett, the founder of the Black Curriculum. The Black Curriculum are a social enterprise who are working to deliver Black British history in schools throughout the UK. Now, what I came to learn in this interview was that the Black Curriculum wasn't something that just appeared out of thin air. In fact, it's been long in the making. And through a mixture of having some very good people around her to help point her in the right direction, to going through some very key experiences in the lead up to founding the Black Curriculum, from some of her early activism work before founding the Black Curriculum, and going through her own journey of self-discovery, she founded the Black Curriculum, where her and her team are on a mission to deliver Black British history throughout the UK so that other students will be able to develop their own sense of identity as well. A very, very inspirational story, and I hope you all enjoy it. So, without further ado, this is 1,000 Voices, and here we have Lavinya Stennett. Right. Hello, Lavinya. How are you today?
Hi, Tevin. I'm good. How are you?
I'm all good. Can't complain. Sun is shining, and yeah, on this lovely May day. So yeah, I'm good. I'm all good. Can't complain. Thank you so much for coming to the podcast. I've been really, really looking forward to this one. I'm a massive believer in education, and I love what you and the team are doing at the Black Curriculum. And I love just your profile in general. It's so cool, so inspiring. So really excited to get you on board. So
Well, thank you.
yeah, no, thank you for coming on. For the people who may not know who you are and may not know who the Black Curriculum are, do you mind giving us a quick introduction?
Yeah, sure. All right. So, for those that don't know about the Black Curriculum and also a bit about the work that I do, I'll start with myself. I'm a writer, also the CEO of the Black Curriculum. And the Black Curriculum, we are a social enterprise, and our mission is about Black history, ensuring that every young person in the UK not only has access to it, but they are empowered with a sense of identity so that when they are in the world and in their communities, not only do they know who they are, but they can share that with their community. And yeah, so Black History as a vehicle to bring social cohesion, essentially. So yeah, that's what we do.
Yeah, no, it's so cool. I love what you guys are doing. And the Black history, the Black British history in particular, is definitely a massive gaping hole in our
Yeah.
curriculum, like massive gaping hole. So the work you're doing is important, and I'm definitely happy to have you on board. With the Black Curriculum, so you mentioned there, and it says on the website as well, how one of your missions is to provide the children that you teach with a sense of identity.
Yes.
What I'm interested in doing is taking it back, looking at your own upbringing, your own childhood. Do you feel like you had
Mm,
this own sense of identity about yourself? And if so, where did that come from?
mm. Well, I think childhood is a really good place to start because it points to a point in our lives where I think the influences that we had were a lot more authentic and not as curated as they become when you get older. So I always remember as a child, like loving the arts, loving the expression of just creativity in school and then outside of school. I've always kind of loved books and reading, and I think education, like that type of education, the formal part of it, really became a part of who I was because that's what my parents were like pushing me towards. But it's also something that I feel like I love just learning. So that was always, I think, a big part of my identity. Now, being a Black young girl, I don't think it's something that I was something like it wasn't something that I was aware of in the sense that I understood what it meant to be Black in the way that I do now, and also didn't understand at the time how to articulate a lot of the shame that was projected on me because I was Black. So I'd say that sense of identity was a lot more like fluid than it is now, where I can kind of put terms and kind of categorize it. Do you know what I mean? So, um, yeah, I think the sense of identity wasn't something that I actually developed until I was in my teens.
Yeah, definitely. And looking at your background, especially with the Black Curriculum, when I was looking into things, I can see that the Black Curriculum isn't necessarily something that came out of the blue. It looks like it was something that was long in the works through things you've done for probably from school, and we can get into like
Yeah.
exclusion and things like that. And then at SOAS, being a working class officer, going on your trip, and then black curriculum. It's been like a series of things that have all culminated and led you to where you are right now, which is so cool.
100%.
And I believe that who we are now is just a sum total basically of what things we've gone through in the past. So it's always interesting to find out about upbringings, backgrounds, and see where people are from, to see how that may
Mm,
have played a role into who you've
mm,
become today.
mm,
Um, when you talk about your education, you said that you liked learning in a particular way, like you
yeah.
liked books and you were into the arts and things like that. But then you're pushed into more of the formal education,
Hmm.
which well, it's the education system we grew up in. Do you know Sir Ken Robinson?
No.
So he's
Wait,
quite
Sir Ken Robinson.
yeah. I think I don't know when he got knighted, but Ken Robinson, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he passed away sometime in recent years. I can't remember exactly when, but he was
Mm,
an educator as well.
mm,
And what he advocated for was he wasn't a fan of the formal education system. Essentially, he said that he advocated and said that the formal education system strips away the creativity from our
mm,
children, where we're
100%.
taught comprehension and things like that, but we're not taught to think creatively. We're
Yes.
told what the answers are, and it sort of strips away like your child that sort of childlike nature
Mm,
that you speak about yourself and your upbringing. Do you feel like with you yourself, so you've always loved learning, but you've loved learning in your own sort of way, and then we go into formal education, and maybe I don't know, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but you may have become disillusioned with the education to some degree, and then ended up being excluded for for whatever reason. Do you feel that the formal education, especially growing up, just do you feel like it helped? It wasn't for you? Do you think it? How was that experience for you? Generally, that schooling for you?
well, I'd say when I started at primary school, I went to two primary schools, two secondary schools. So my first primary school was mainly Afro Caribbean, and I loved it. Like it was called New Life. It was like a Christian school. We were just ourselves, and I don't remember feeling like, oh, I don't belong here. I think if anything, it was more that kind of reaction to like, okay, why do we have to do assemblies and why do we have to pray at a certain time? So I think a reaction to that sense of like authority and rigidity was always there. But I love the school environment and the teachers, etc. Now, when I went to the second primary school, things were also okay, but it became clearer to me that I valued expression, and I think there was something in that school that wasn't in my first primary school that allowed you to just be really raw and authentic, and you weren't punished for that. Whereas in the previous school, like sometimes, yeah, I got my head twisted, and I remember my mum was just so mad, and she went down to the school and really kind of told off that teacher. But I think, yeah, this idea that formal, especially primary education, is a place where you allow that expression is really key, because I've seen through not my experience, but people I studied with and also family, how if you don't allow that expression to happen at that early age and you penalize it, the kind of trajectory that can take you on. So I was quite fortunate. Now, when I went to secondary school, again, very kind of um, separate experiences. The first school was a private school, very posh, very white, and I like I done my books, I studied, I done done really well, top sets and everything. But culturally, it like there was a lot of unspoken things and things I couldn't communicate because of fear of getting in trouble. Not only with my mum, who had sacrificed a lot for me to go there, but also to explain to the teachers, well, this is what I believe is right. You're young, you're fearless, and I think that is a challenge sometimes for people in authority, because they're used to being predicated on stability and like the status quo. And I think to come from a working class background, to come from a background where I'm actually encouraged in my family to speak up, it was a challenge to be in that environment. And then, I was excluded. And I do a big shrug, because I think now I'm just like, well, your loss. I think at the time I carried the sense of shame, like formal education is something that you're supposed to do, and like private school is important, and your education is your life, and it was just like this big piece of shame that you carry on you. But it's like your education, if it's not suited to who you are, you won't thrive, and that doesn't mean that it's your fault or it's something that you're to be blamed for. And I think that is something that a lot of students that I've seen carried. So yeah, I was also excluded from my second school for not the same reason. I think the first school, in hindsight, kind of put me on a trajectory of like that shame, as I said, and I was kind of living up to the perceptions that were put on me. And then I went to a PRU. So yeah, formal education, state schools, private schools, I've done it all. And I've seen how it can shape your identity. So I hope that answers part of your question,
Yeah,
or all of it.
answers it perfectly. You know what? There's so much to even unpack in just the answer there and there. And I could go so many different directions.
Yeah.
Before we get there, so you mentioned earlier on that it was in your teens we started to develop this sense of identity. Was it
Mm.
is this when you started to learn about Black British history? And was this all in the midst of these issues, the school exclusion and everything like that? Was that at that point in time when you're starting to develop that identity and find yourself?
Mm. So you've actually just like helped me think about this in a different way. It wasn't when I was in school, and it wasn't when I was out of school. It happened when actually I chose to go back into education at age 15. I wanted it because I knew that that was something that I could do, something that I could excel at. And even though I had been told and narrated these stories that, oh, like Lavinya, she's too headstrong, whatever, I always felt that education, I had a chance there. So when I chose to go back, which I think is really important in that sense of identity, you have to, as an individual, like want something and be ready for that. I went to college and I started to be exposed to like different ideologies away from just like your textbook feminism. I had like this teacher, I can't remember her name, but she was what they would call like a white liberal. But she was teaching us decolonization. I couldn't spell it. I was like, I get
Mhm.
it, and I feel I understand like where this is coming from. So I, on my own journey, started to kind of look into that more. At the time, I think there was like I said actually thank you to this person because she was really influential as a friend. She was exposing me to a lot of music um, that was talking about these ideas and concepts. So it was like almost like in my personal life, I was like going on that journey of like um, yeah, Pan Africanism, just understanding blackness globally more, and then academically, I was going to LSE to listen to people from South Africa talk about decolonization in context. It was like this world of like this new world of just learning about justice and yeah, it was just amazing. So yeah, I was like 15, 16 at the time. Maybe not 16, I lied. Maybe 17. Yeah, 17.
Super interesting. What was it about all of the conscious music and the Pan Africanism, the LSE, maybe your friends, if influences, and that kind of thing? What was it about learning about those things that really drew you in? If you know what I'm saying, like why
Yeah,
was it the
it's
identity piece?
it's meaning. It gives meaning to your life. It gives meaning. It gave meaning to me from where I was and what I had experienced. I'd been in the world and I had seen what self hate looks like. I'd seen what being outside and being disenfranchised looked like, and I felt at the time I couldn't articulate it, but I consciously knew that this path that I was on, it was empty and there's so much more meaning in the world. And I don't remember having this conversation myself, but I remember like being exposed. And I think also the seeds were sown from ages ago. My dad, my mum, conversations with family and family friends were always there. So it's almost like I had the space and I had that willingness to allow that to germinate. So yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I can maybe not reflect, and relate on a personal level. My journey is a bit different to yours, but when I was probably around a similar age to you, I guess, maybe when I was about college, getting into college, just before college, about 15, 16, 17, around those ages there. Because similar to you, I love reading. Like I've always been into my books growing up. And
Nice.
it was around that period of time where I started reading a lot more Black literature. So I was reading also, I read a bit about, colonialism and that kind of thing, but I tend not to read too much of that literature just because I don't like reading into it too much, basically. I mean, I
Yeah.
know it's happened and everything like that, and obviously, I get it, but I like to read positive stuff, basically. It's like
Mm,
once I've got the gist of the story, I get it, and then learn about the intricacies about of how bad colonialism and things like that were, didn't necessarily, you know, ignite anything inside of me per se. It might make me think a
right.
certain way. Maybe you feel a bit angry and everything that's happened. But for me, I like to read like biographies and just like positive material. And I started reading like about Kwame Nkrumah, start reading about Martin Luther King. It was all overseas figures, no one even from here in the UK really,
Mm,
because you don't really see much from people over here.
mm-mm,
But reading
mm-mm.
about all these different overseas figures and thinking, wow, like this is so sick,
It's
and it's
amazing.
and it's empowering. It's
Mm,
super empowering. You really you feel like wow.
mm,
You just feel so good about yourself, and that was me. And
yeah.
I feel like it's played a very important role in my own life. And sometimes you don't even clock at the time. It's until later on you might look back and be like, oh wow, okay, I can see how this that has all added together, and that's why I'm here
Mm,
now. So I don't know if that's the
mm.
same view. Like as I'm asking you now, I don't know if you already knew or you're looking back like, oh yeah, done this, done that. Oh yeah, that's quite cool. Those are
Mm,
all like pivotal things that
mm.
all added together and have all played a
Yes.
role in who
Yeah.
in who I am today, basically.
Mm, absolutely. Like being in university was one of those spaces as well, because all that knowledge that I had kind of got outside of uni, not with the music and then those little debates I was going to outside, then coming into study African studies, it was like, okay, there's this worldly space, there's this academic space that's really just theoretical and people just blah 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 blah, they talk, but where's the action? And I had seen what that could look like. So coming in, it was like, where's the Black British history? And
Mm,
we set up, like myself and the co-founder of Art and African Mind, which is the society we co-founded. We used to like do these what's it called, like, I can't remember the word for it, but we basically do like sessions to get people to learn Black British history. Sometimes we'll have like two people, sometimes it'd be like seven, and we didn't care. It was just like, you need to know your history. Like we had that kind of just like, tunnel vision with it, because it's like it's exciting, as you said, and you just feel like so whole when you learn and you want to share that with people. So yeah.
yeah, that's so cool. And so you went to SOAS. I don't know if you just mentioned it there, but you went to SOAS.
Yeah.
You studied the African studies, and then speaking of you now, I guess it makes sense why you've gone down that route and studied the African studies.
Yeah.
When you were at SOAS, so you became, I don't know if you like the label or not, but like sort of like an activist. Would that be a fair label
Yeah.
to use? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've done some activism work at SOAS. I read
Mm.
about the hashtag That Way campaign. Yeah.
Okay.
Which looked so cool when I read about it, and I was like, yeah, that's sick. Could you talk a bit about that and what your motivations were behind starting that?
Yeah. Well, I'd start off by saying, first of all, that That Way campaign would not be possible without people of color officer. It wouldn't have been possible without the support of a good friend at the time. So I had a community around me who were helping me with my own kind of like um, academic and mental health issues when it comes to studying in an institution like SOAS, to be able to have the space to campaign for other students who didn't have that time. So that's the first thing. So basically, we in 2017/18 academic year ran for the working class officer, which I shared with a girl called Valeria. And essentially, what that post meant is that you advocate and kind of speak for um, and support students who come from working class backgrounds. And you know there's all these different kind of ways that they calculate that, but ultimately it's if your household income was under 25,000. And it's a post that was kind of, it wasn't active as much before, and I felt that there was an opportunity for us to kind of like be more present on campus, because somewhere like SOAS, you have a lot of international students who are not from working class backgrounds, who aren't black. And I was like, okay, there needs to be representation for people like me, but also international students who also don't have like any kind of support in the country, who come from those backgrounds too. So I took it really seriously. Needless to say, someone had found out that there was no. Actually, I think in discussions with people, the people of color officer said to me, oh, 2 or 3 people haven't got this bursary that you're eligible for. And I was like, okay, let's just like continue asking people. And we just found out there were so many people who just weren't getting this bursary that by law, when you're enrolled in university, you have to get it, right? So we done loads of research. I was like, we have to do this campaign. I think the name came to me because I was like, oh yeah, okay, funny story. It was the same time as Migos. Yeah, and I was like, okay, cool. But that was the way that I felt I wanted the university to go. So yeah, I was like, this is the way that I think the university should go. It's called that way. So yeah, planned this like campaign to have the university compensate the 92 students who didn't have access to this bursary. So we've done like a whole of like information-based campaigns, put up like posters around the uni. They were taken down as we put them up. Emails were sent around to all students by myself and my other the co-officer, and we were just being discredited by management. So we decided, fine, we're just going to go to do a campaign on the stairs. We had megaphones, and by chance we saw the chancellor of SOAS literally the same minute and demanded for that money to come, and literally mobilized all the university. I remember there were so many students and teachers who were like, yeah, give them money. And yeah, we got the money. They instituted it like weeks after the campaign, and students were even backdated. So if you were in your third year, imagine you were compensated for that year, your second year, and also your third year. So it was a huge victory.
All right. Okay, so you said the teachers or management were taking down the posters. That sounds nuts. I think they didn't want to see you guys win at all.
Did not.
What was like? Did you guys just highlight the problem, and did you like take it to the school and then not hear nothing back in trailblade and say, okay, you know what, we're just gonna campaign and do what we got to do anyway? Is that why you're getting that kind of resistance?
Well, I think firstly, within the student union, like on based on previous roles and what people had done in the past, there were these views that like, okay, management's not going to listen to you, nothing's going to happen. So yeah, good luck. I was like not happy with that. I was like, you can't be pessimistic when there's money here, where there's students like not getting what they deserve. So I felt that we needed to go the step further and actively get their attention and also their commitment to doing it, because it's enough just saying, okay, yeah, we hear you, like what's next. And I think that, yeah, that was really the essence of what we were seeking. It was like, we want this money by this date, so yeah.
Yeah, definitely. When you say like we hear you, okay, what's next? And you spoke a bit before about action pieces as well, because
Yeah.
this performative allyship thing is not great, man. I'm not a fan of it. It's like the black square thing, which I talk about sometimes. I was not a fan of that kind of nonsense when I saw it,
Yeah.
because it just very performative, but there's no action behind it.
Hmm.
So yeah, if you hear us, cool, great. Let's work together and make something happen. Then, if
Do
you
something.
if you really care. So, but that campaign sounds really cool. Where did that drive come from to challenge these kind of inequalities that you're seeing?
um well, I think there is more than one answer, and I'd say that as a person, I've always been quite challenging, if that, not challenging, but I've always challenged things as a young person. um I remember instances like just even going home one day, I saw this person outside my house. I was like 7, and I don't know, I just had this feeling that they were just doing something. So I was like, I went up to them. I was like, look, if you feel like you're gonna rob my house,
Mm,
like you've got another thing coming. I remember that kind of like that inner strength has always been there. I remember that so clearly, but I also feel like there is a sense of like anger from the exclusions, from the way that these institutions have kind of written me off. And I've seen the way that they've written off people that I know. And I just think that like I've kind of carried around this sense of like, you guys are not going to get away with this, like continually around with me. So I kind of feel like it's reactive as much as it is proactive. Maybe not equally, but there is, yeah, I'd say there is that kind of duality.
yeah, and probably also a sense of your upbringing as well. When you mentioned when you're younger, growing up, you're always encouraged to speak up and challenge. So I guess all of that probably plays a role into
My
the
whole
work.
family's bold. Literally, my mom's bold, my grandma's bold. They're all bold. So
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes in life, you got to be like that anyways, man. Sometimes you got to kind of force the issue or just trailblaze a bit, be bold and do your thing, say what's on
exactly.
your mind, in order to make things happen sometimes, man. Because
Mm,
sometimes people, institutions aren't going to budge until you make a
push.
ruckus until,
Exactly.
you do what you got to do. All
Mm,
right. So all of these experiences, yeah, your school, your SOAS, the material you're consuming, all of this has played a role into starting up the black curriculum. Yeah, you even spoke about when you were teaching black history in SOAS, and sometimes only like a couple of people are there. Like that's literally the black curriculum.
yeah.
The early
Yeah.
days, maybe when it wasn't called the black curriculum, but
Yeah.
the early days of it. So before you actually founded the black curriculum, yeah, you went to New Zealand, right? Can you
Yes.
talk about that experience?
Yes. That life changing experience. So whilst I was at SOAS, there was a lecturer who was like to me, "Well, I've got this opportunity. I think you should apply." So I looked at the application. It was like, "Oh, you can go to anywhere in Australia or New Zealand," and instantly, like, I was like, New Zealand is where I want to go. Um, and yeah, it basically gave you the opportunity to study in New Zealand for a semester. So I chose the University of Waikato, which is in Hamilton in the North Island, particularly because it's a Maori university. And I was like, if I'm going all the way to New Zealand, I'm going to see Maori people, right? So I wanted to just learn their history, learn about their culture, and yeah, so I got the scholarship, and I left in. So when you break up from university, it's like your summer holiday, and then you go back in the autumn. Well, I took
Yeah.
that summer to study, um, and it was really great. I studied Lando, Kapahaka, which is the national dance, and then also I think there was another module that I took on, um, like cosmology or something like that. And it was a really immersive experience. I remember just feeling like I belong in the space with everyone else that's here, because even though it was short and you kind of have in the back of your head that I'm leaving, it's like whilst you're here, you're present, because like this is the walls that are around you is here to kind of like commemorate history and Maori history, and you have the teacher right in front of you who has like a whole like lineage behind her of like Maori fighters and Maoris who have contributed to their community and were proud in their culture. So it was like it's hard to escape this place, because everywhere you look, everything you feel is Maori based. It's on their culture, and yeah. So yeah, I was taking trips outside to my friends' like families' houses, which they call like marais or community kind of um, not community centres, but community housing, I guess. And it was just like immersive. It was beautiful. And I think also in absence of having other black people around me, I mean, I did have one friend from Nigeria who was there, but aside from that, I think it helped me to realize who I was and why my culture is so important in the midst of a beautiful culture. So I was like, I had like my Bible at the time, which was Rani Edo Lodges, why I'm no longer talking to white people about
Yeah.
raves. I had that literally with me everywhere. I was like, you got to see this. And it was like my protection. And yeah, I just remember just feeling just like we need something that is just around us 360 all the time in these countries that have like taken it away from us. Like you think about it, the connection, and I was thinking about this a lot at the time, the connection between our experiences and Maori experiences is that there's just a difference with the land, right? But everything else is very similar in terms of the I guess the experience of colonialism. But yeah, but, we're in England, so this isn't technically our land. However, we do have that shared experience of colonialism and all the other things that come with it. So I was like, okay, we need a timeline. I was thinking really like small there, like let's do a timeline to map out the similarities. And my friend at the time was like, I think bigger than that, man. Like, you want to do something, but you could do something much more bigger. And I was just like, okay. And then, yeah, a couple of weeks later, I just like I'm not gonna lie and sit here and like I remember the date and the time, but I do remember writing down in a book in one of my lectures that I'm going to create the Black curriculum. And we spent like the next couple nights just like fleshing that idea out. And it was in New Zealand that I applied for the grant that was our first grant for the Black curriculum as a company. So yeah, that's where it all happened because I think it was just so immersive.
Yeah, that sounds so cool. That sounds like a proper, really sick experience. So yeah, I think sometimes these kind of trips can be really life altering, life changing. My wife went to Kenya some time back, a few years ago, and she
Mm,
was talking about how much of a life changing experience that was for her as well. Like being
mm,
immersed in the Maasai culture. She was there for
mm,
how long? Maybe similar to you, maybe like the summer kind of period. It might have been like a 6 weeks or so. I can't remember. Um,
mm.
but she spoke about how much of a life changing experience that was for her, and working with like
So
some of the local entrepreneurs and like living with the Maasai people and everything like that. And yeah, I think those kind of trips can be very life altering.
it's
Sounds really cool.
amazing. It's
Uh,
amazing.
yeah. Do you still remember the dance?
Oh God, I do because I do, and I remember the songs as well. Because we had to do a performance at the end, so we were practicing every day.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
You can give us the 1,000 voice exclusive.
I think about that.
Cool, cool. Maybe another time. All right. So you've come back to the UK, yeah, and you're like, cool, right? We're going to start the Black curriculum. You've written it down, you've manifested it, and you've got to work, and you've got your first grant, which is really cool, from New Zealand. Was it a New Zealand-based company that gave
No,
you the
so
grant? Or?
I applied whilst I was in New Zealand for a UK grant.
Oh, okay, cool. All
Yeah.
right, you've come to the UK, and you're going
Mm,
to start the Black curriculum now. How
hmm.
did you go about like building out the curriculum in the first place?
Well, so we had this money. We didn't actually have the money physically then, but I had the idea, and I was like, I know I'm getting the money because it's been approved. So it was now about how do I get people around me to get behind this idea because I wasn't even thinking social media. I wasn't thinking like I don't know, you got to set up a like a legal entity. I wasn't thinking that way. I was thinking more people. How do we get this into schools? How do we get this idea into society? So I remember telling my friends and acquaintances at the time about it whilst I was studying, and they were like, "Yeah, no, let's do a conference. Like, let's do it." So I was planning this conference, and at the time, I even spoke to an older lady who has been so supportive, like from uni days. She was like, "What do you mean you're going to a conference? Like, you need to have an action before you bring people to you." So I was like, "Okay, good point." So let me take it a step back and develop content. So I rallied some of my acquaintances to develop this curriculum. Also went to a conference around like the place of Black British history, and I remember feeling really kind of like, do you know when you're just burning to talk in a conference, but I just was like I
Mm,
can't say anything because there was like people on the panel saying, "Yeah, Black British history should be in the curriculum." I'm like,
yeah.
and it's so weird because I saw a friend who I went to school with in the crowd, and I was like, "Oh, she has a group of Black women, and um, yeah, regularly every month kind of meets with them." So she was like, "Come along to the next one," and I think that's how I met Bethany and Lisa, who helped in the beginning, were really instrumental, in fact, in terms of actually kind of fleshing out what does this curriculum look like, the timing of when we're going to go into the schools. So between like, I'd say between February or say like, let's say March to August, we had like this curriculum phase of it just being built, developed, and it was literally three of us at the time, and we're like kind of overseeing the process of the freelancers creating it. And we had about 9 freelancers just developing this curriculum, whilst there were two other girls that I was studying with, that I had studied with, literally cold calling schools across the country saying, "We've got this curriculum ready for you." It wasn't ready, but in September, like, "We've got this thing for you, are you gonna take it?" And yeah, like, so yeah, things are like in development, and yeah, it was, yeah,
That's real
amazing.
cool. That's real cool. Shout out to what was it, Bethany and so
Bethany and Lisa.
shout out to Bethany and
Yeah,
Lisa. Yeah,
yeah.
that's real sick. And I keep forgetting to mention because with all of your answers, I feel like there's a lot to unpack. But I went to Birkbeck actually, so I was like round the corner from
Oh,
SOAS.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, literally right there.
yeah, yeah. Well, I done my masters there at Birkbeck. Yeah, so I've been to the SOAS SU and that a few times and that. So
Oh my gosh, you might have crossed
yeah,
paths one of those.
maybe. I think I went a bit after you probably graduated though. So, but yeah, yeah, yeah. Proper cool. All right, so Darren, then you guys are building out on that kind of thing, yeah, and you're cold calling schools, doing
Yeah.
your thing. What's the reception been like from the schools you've delivered it at, and also in particular the children or the kids that you're
Yeah.
delivering
Yeah.
and the kids on the kid aspect as well, yeah, both from black kids and non-black kids as well. What's the feedback been like?
Right. So I jumped there because whilst we were doing the cold calling with the schools, at the same time I was like, we're gonna take this straight to parents. So I don't even know, how did we meet the parents? I can't even remember, but we found people
Mm,
maybe through the social media. Yeah, we built a social media profile, and there was parents who were following us. And in the September, I wanted to do like a session that involved music um, on Saturday, so that the parents, like a Saturday school essentially, so the parents could bring their children. And yeah, that was the first time the Black curriculum interacted with the wider world. And it was there that it was clear, like we recorded the session and everything, it's on YouTube. It was clear that this was something that there's appetite for, hunger for, demand for.
mm,
And the students were saying like, yeah, it was cool. Like when you have a child saying that was cool, like
yeah,
that means like it's a lot. Do you know what I mean? Because children can be they're so real, and you're not gonna have like an unfiltered. Do you know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. I
So
get you.
most of our scores, we had these feedback sheets. Our scores are like 4 out of 5. They want to give us 5, but it was like 4 out of 5. I was like, okay, like we're onto something. So the students were saying at the time, like, I really needed this. And I remember one of the students' parents inboxed us like maybe 3 months after saying, yeah, like after the session, my son had started a Black British History book club. I'm thinking, wow, like
Wow,
just that
amazing.
session. But he must have, had that in him as well, like to want to do that. So I think that's exactly it. It's getting young people to a place where they have their own ideas and can like share their ideas around Black history. It's yeah, so yeah, it was amazing to see the response so early at that time. This was 2019, and then we went to schools. White students were saying, "Yeah, like of course." Some of them were shy. Don't get me wrong; they were shy. Like, who are you?
Mm,
Where's this going? But I think once they got into it, we had white students also say to us, like, "Yep, I need this. I can see the importance of it." They were writing raps. So yeah, it's all good.
sounds good. Sounds good. You know what? I get people would be shy. People don't like to talk about race, and to be fair, it can be an awkward subject to talk about.
Yeah.
Especially if you're the black person, I can talk from a black person perspective, and like when you're one of the only ones in the room, and to now have to bring up the topic of race, it can be very awkward. You don't want to be perceived in a certain way, or you just don't want to be that guy in it. Like if someone asks you, then cool, great, I can talk about my experience, but now for
Yeah.
me to now come bring it out, so yeah, I think it's always an awkward thing, and with the black curriculum, I suppose in a way you're putting it out there, and maybe in a way it gets people a bit more comfortable, so that we can talk about these kind of issues as well. Because it's important to be able to talk about our experiences and our issues, and to talk about our backgrounds and our
Exactly.
cultures, and be proud about it, not feel a certain
Exactly.
type of way talking about who
Exactly.
you are and where you come from.
Yeah.
Very empowering, and it's really cool to hear about that boy that when he started his own the book club as well. That's sick.
Yep. More
Yeah,
life to him.
yeah, definitely. Big him up, man. That's sick. So with the so actually, I got here, yeah. I've got it open. I read the what's it called? The impact report, the 2021 impact report. Which I thought
Okay.
so sick. Yeah. Well, when I say I read it, it was off your social media. So,
Oh.
just a little page in it. But basically, 2021, you reached 1,800 young people directly, six over 6,000 teachers and senior leaders across the UK, and 200 schools in over 12 countries. So good. Big
Yep.
up to you and the team. That's so sick. Like really good to
Thank
hear.
you.
Yeah. Um,
Thank you.
what does the curriculum look like now?
So we've actually branched. I wasn't branched. Oh yeah, we branched like a little tree, to do different things. So the curriculum was something that we developed in the beginning, and it was us. Like we were the ones that were going into schools to take it. But then, as you grow, obviously you can't physically do that with every school. You kind of need a different model, and So yeah, we kind of looked at other ways to start reaching teachers, and we offer them training, audits, with books, different types of resources. So our curriculum, I wouldn't say it's one thing at the moment. There's so many different components because we've had to grow. Um, but yeah, we're definitely kind of going to revise a curriculum that teachers can actually just use. That fits within as well what they're teaching. So it's not just like, here's Black history. Okay, like how does that relate to what I'm teaching? And if it doesn't relate, they can't use it. So yeah,
Yeah,
we've learned a lot of things. Let's say along the journey.
yeah, yeah. That's a very entrepreneurial way to look at your business, the Black curriculum. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, yeah, this might be controversial in it, but look, we as a community have to be okay with making money. Like, I think it's about the heart, obviously. And for me, I wasn't making money in the beginning. Like, this was coming out of my pocket. But I think as we've grown, it's become more important to me because this is value. We're adding value to society, and sometimes we don't actually have the means to kind of quantify what that looks like. But I know that it's bringing value, so I'm unashamedly entrepreneurial in my approach to this. And ultimately, if you want to reach the world, you've got to be able to scale,
yeah, yeah,
right?
for
So
sure.
yeah.
For sure, for sure. I mean, when I say entrepreneurial, I don't say it like in a bad way. In a good
Yeah,
way.
no, no, no. I
Yeah.
know, I know you meant it in a good way, but I just want to make sure that everyone kind of understands why.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's like you think about it in different. When I say entrepreneurs, like you think about different creative ways in which we can further amplify the
Mm,
impact we're making. So it's like, and that's very
yes.
entrepreneurial. It's creativity in a sense, like building
Yes.
stuff out because you've started the thing up, and at first it was going to be a conference, and then you and then you've built up like a curriculum around it.
Yeah.
Maybe
There's
with
gonna be
that.
a timeline
Well,
first.
so it's going to be a timeline and a conference, and it's built up incrementally over time, maybe through some
Yes.
outside influence, like the old woman you spoke to,
Yes.
or just through, I don't know, would you call it necessity? Just ways to further amplify what you're doing. Okay, we're doing this. Okay, we can also offer trainings. We can also do this. We can also do that. It's creativity and entrepreneurship, and I think it's definitely a good way to approach any kind of endeavor we do, even if it's a 9 to 5 job. Entrepreneurship, approach things creatively, build
Yes.
out and think about ways you can further amplify the impact you're
So
making.
true. Thank
Add,
you for highlighting that. It's so true.
yeah, it's all good. It's all good. Add an extra value and everything. And to be fair, like I mean, people don't have to pay or use it if they don't want to. You're offering value,
It's so
and
true.
it's for them to now. If they find it valuable, then cool, they take you up on your service. If they don't find it valuable, then they won't take you
Fine.
up on your service. So
Yeah.
cool. I mean, it is what it is. Yeah. So with the Black curriculum as well, yeah. So you've been building that up for a while as well, and you've had seems like quite a bit of interest in what you and the team are doing. Amazing work, but what you and the team are doing, whether that's like press or just I don't know socials or people talking about what you guys are doing, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Has that been largely organic as well? Has it been like you just been building out and then just get people reaching out to you?
We have proudly never paid for an ad, never okay, I have inbox people like, can you repost this, please? Like,
Mhm.
especially in the early days, where we really wanted to kind of like build trust in the community. But like, everything's been organic from the beginning. And it's not to say like, oh, like, it means we're like better than other organizations, or it's just to point out that we filled a gap that didn't exist, right? And I think that demand and that surge in attention only is there because we've been needing this for so long, and that's it.
Yeah, yeah. And then was that the same with the Virgil RIP? Or was that the same with the Virgil collab as well?
So Virgil was our patron. He was our first patron, and he came along after 2020. So when everyone started to learn about the back curriculum, um, and yeah, like he done a fundraiser that was raising money for the Black curriculum and another charity called Inquest, and then on the back of that became our patron. Yeah, he accepted, and then through conversation we was like, we want to do something with you, like a collab, and he was like, have a better idea, let's do it with British Vogue. And yeah, he went off and literally started designing the t-shirt that same meeting, like in the meeting. I was like, are you listening? He was like, yeah, I'm just designing. um yeah, rest in peace. So yeah, that campaign came about through his work directly with the Black curriculum. Yeah.
So cool. So cool. And you spoke 2020. That's when everybody found out about Black curriculum, or when things amplified. And obviously, I'm guessing that's off the back of the George Floyd murder and the Black Lives Matter movement.
Yeah.
What was that period like for you on a personal level? What was that like for you personally? And then after that, what was that like for the Black curriculum as well?
Boy, I think that end of May, June was just wow. We're actually coming to that period now.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Wow, we are.
Wow, 2 years. Um, it was heavy. Like I remember feeling collectively like everyone else, just tired, just emotionally, mentally, just tired, like defeated in a way. Particularly in the first few days, and like I said to my team, we've got to do something. Like we've got to do a campaign, because there's a lot of people who not only are speaking about this in a way where it's like, oh, it's America, but that, like, what are they? How are they understanding that this experience is tied to what we're taught? So I said, there's something that we could do here, and my team came up with the idea to do a 22-day campaign at the same time that coincided with um, George Floyd's murder, right? Because it came off that, so it was bittersweet. But then at the same time, it was like an opportunity for us to educate. So coming back to our mission, and I think because we were aligned in that, and it happened at a time where people's minds were just like, gotta learn, gotta do everything, and consuming a lot, especially online.
Mm.
We had a lot of followers. Like the Instagram blew up, our inboxes blew up, our everything just went from this to that, and it was a time like no other. I remember I didn't sleep. I wasn't
Mm.
sleeping. There was interviews that I was doing like daily. Like it was just a new world for me. So I'd say like probably out. Yeah, it probably became a new person 2 years ago. May. I haven't. I don't think I fully even adjusted to the reality of what happened then. Um, and yeah, as a team, that and we're still feeling it. It takes a lot of adjustment. Like any organization needs to go through periods of growth strategically, and we weren't afforded that luxury. So yeah, it's sad that all of that came from a time of someone's death, and then crippled us with more exhaustion. But then I guess on the bright side, there's a lot that we can be thankful for, particularly with our mission. So yeah, it's a hard one.
Definitely. I feel with that, the George Floyd murder, there was a ripple effect throughout the whole world. And
Mm,
with a lot of people I speak to on here, because most people I speak to on here are going to be business owners, actually, or 3,000 Voices, or some professionals as well. And most people that I've spoken to about this have had a massive upsurge in whatever business they're running at
yeah,
the time, and it was
yeah.
short lived. Or if they're professionals, they've had all of a sudden randomly like people reaching out to them and I don't know, trying to talk to them or whatever. Not necessarily, I don't mean talk to them in a sense on a personal level. How are you? I mean like talk to them for an
Mm,
interview kind of thing.
mm.
And then again, that dries up again. And
Yeah, because it's from guilt.
yeah, yeah, which I'm not really a fan of now because it's just very performative. Like I think
Exactly.
people should latch on to do you know Simon Sinek?
No.
So he's got a very, very good book, which I'd highly recommend. Start with Why. Not
Mm.
as good as your book. We'll get into in a sec. But it's a proper good book, and he talks about how the best organizations start with why, like what they believe in, and everything like that. Um, he's got a very good TED talk on YouTube, which you can check out as well. But
Yeah.
it's so good. One of the best I've read. And he talks about organizations and individual people as well. So using Martin Luther King as an example, and says that he had a dream. He didn't have a plan. He had a dream, and people latched onto his dream and what he believed in. And when we what's the word? Look back at this, the Black Lives Matter movement and everything like that. If people really believed in the why, what you stand
Mm,
for, what you're
mm,
doing,
mm,
then it wouldn't be short-lived. It
mm,
wouldn't be like a short burst and then back to normal. But
mm,
the fact that that happens means that a lot of it'll just sort of like a knee-jerk reaction. Oh,
mm.
wait, let's quickly look for some black organizations to support or to put on our social media or to talk to or to interview or blah, blah, whatever, whatever. And it's bittersweet, like you said, in a sense where it's like, obviously,
Yeah.
all these organizations have their own missions and their own things you're working towards.
Mm, mm,
So of course that it helps a hell of a lot in helping to achieve and amplify the impacts the organizations are making.
mm.
Um, but at the same time, it's like it's so performative and it doesn't sit right.
100%.
It doesn't sit right because it's like, okay, you've reached out to me because you need a black face on your social media, basically.
Yeah.
And after a few months' time now, that's all that has dried up. Sales are back to normal. The reaching out, people reaching out, is all dried up again. It's super performative. It's like you don't really believe then, do you? You know, in what we're doing and what we stand for.
Mm,
So
mm,
that whole
mm.
period, I wasn't really a big fan of. When I've seen the black squares, I was not a fan of it, man.
No.
I was not a fan.
Everybody and their dog had a black square. But I
Man,
think what your sentiments are so true, and yeah, it's not sustainable. And if you don't believe in what we're doing, then why should you be afforded the privilege of being associated with us? Because that in and of itself is helping you.
yeah,
Like, not the opposite. It's helping you. So yeah.
yeah, yeah, definitely. With you, yeah, I get the vibe that you're very much a doer. Like, I don't know if
Yeah.
you'd say that's right or wrong, but
Yeah,
yeah,
you read me like a book.
yeah. So, yeah, I get that vibe from you. What would you attribute that to? Have you always been like that?
Been always independent. I wouldn't say always, but like I've grown up largely independent. I've had to do things for myself, had to create a life for myself. So yeah, I think it's just who I am. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right, and then let's talk about one thing you're doing right now. You're working on your book, Omitted, which
Yeah.
is yeah, I had a read of the synopsis actually. It's on the Waterstone's website and everything, and I'm sure it's all over the place. But it looks really cool. It looks like a well, actually no, I'll let you explain it first. Actually, you
Okay.
tell me. Tell us about the book.
Right. So, Omitted is a book that basically is about Black histories across the world, but as it relates to Black British history. And it uses aspects of my experiences, particularly with activism, to educate the reader on those parts of history and then what we can do about it now so that the future is better. So it's almost like using history as a vehicle for understanding a newer world or a newer way of putting ourselves at the front line of history and not behind. So yeah, I see it as like I kind of want the outcome of everyone who reads it to be like, okay, yeah, I can actually go and create this. And I know it sounds so cheesy, but that's it. That's it.
Yeah, yeah. When I was looking at it, I just sort of felt like it's an offshoot or like an extra, I should even say, part to the black curriculum in a way, because now you're reaching with black curriculum, you're working with schools and students and that. And then with
Yes.
this, now you can reach new people. You can further like push out the message, and it's a good message. And
Yes.
people do need to hear these kind of things. So you can sort of further push out that message, everything like that. So that's so cool. So just to reiterate, you said it's about looking at history.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's cool. So it's like looking at history and then learning lessons from, is it what, Black British history? And then learn lessons from
Yes.
it?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's Black British history, but then it draws on global history because I'm trying to kind of get away from this little England idea. Um, yeah, I think it's important that we just make it global and tie those stories together.
Have you written anything like this before?
No, I
Yeah.
mean, kind of, not really like on the scale, but I have written more academic pieces,
Mm.
but nothing that uses my story and Black history. It's a completely different thing.
What's the writing process like?
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, as you can imagine, because there's so many different threads that actively you have to remember. So I remember starting the first chapter. I was like, okay, cool. It's a history book. I'm just going to start the history. I'm going to just do research, and I was doing the research, and my editors were like, "This is kind of dry. Like it's good, but like, where are you in this?" So you need to think about your narrative. So it's like when you have a hand on the, it's like multitasking. You have a hand on the history and the research, and then you start to find your voice, and then you have a hand on your voice, but then you also have to have a hand on like where's the overarching goal in this. So it's almost like a puzzle that you're always working and like moving around. And then obviously you have days where your mind isn't, like also running a business, your mind isn't doing all of those things. So it definitely requires space. And yeah, um, it's a really interesting process. I'm learning a lot. So yeah,
Yeah, can't wait for it to come out. I think it's
so
2023
spring
spring.
2023. Yeah,
Cool, cool, definitely, man. Definitely check that out, people. I'm sure it's gonna be super good, and I've pre-ordered it, so
yeah.
yeah, it's gonna be really good. Looking forward to it. In Black British history, what's your favorite historical event or person?
Good question. Hmm. Hmm. I I'm probably gonna say. Can I have two?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I've got a person. Just because I didn't know her obviously, but I just feel like when I read about her life, when I read about what she stood for, I'm like, okay, I think we would have got along. So her name's Olive Morris,
Mm,
and she grew up in. She was born in Jamaica, came to South London, and her work was predicated on what I see is not just campaigning; it's about advocating for a better life for black women, and it also included Asian women. She grew up in the 70s at a time where political blackness was the way of life. And for those that don't know, political blackness is um, includes black Asians, like people who are non-white essentially. So she advocated for their wellness through housing and employment, and the way she done it to me seemed like she didn't have anything to lose,
mm,
and I like that. It's like if we have nothing, we as a society we have nothing to gain if we as black women aren't seen. So therefore, I have nothing to lose in that fight, right? So I resonate with her entrance, her background, and obviously there's that proximity of like location and like heritage there. So yeah, Olive Morris, and then also I would say an event in time that I kind of wish I was there at, but also have a lot of like questions about is the Haitian Revolution. I kind of want to know like what happened at the time when they all met, and I just have questions like just like what was that conversation
mm.
that led to the uprising, and yeah, I'm just interested as to how it started, right? Um, yeah, there are stories out there that say it started with like like a vision and things like that, but I want to know. So yeah.
Cool. All right. With the black curriculum, what's next on the horizon?
We are doing a lot. So this year, our focus is I call this yeah, okay. So we're getting things right as an organization. We're in our third year, and our focus at the moment is on going into different markets, including the children's market, which includes children's books. So we have our own set of books coming out in August on migration, legacies, and places. And those are all kind of different aspects of Black history. So that's really exciting. And the team have worked so hard on it looks great, the content's great, and I'm sure the reception will be as well. We also have a program called the Springboard Program that we're running with Universal Music to basically encourage students to learn Black history through music. So it's an extension of what we started doing in 2019, but in different cities in London, Birmingham, Bristol, Manchester, and Liverpool. And that is, yeah, it's all year. So from this month to 2023 May. And yeah, every student in that program essentially has access to our post scheme networks where they're able to kind of look at other creative industries that they're really interested in, and using Black history as a vehicle to campaign in their own creative way. And yeah, we have a campaign for teachers because we've seen that our work is effective, but there's a lot of policy work that needs to be done for us to actually institute this at a national level. So we have a campaign coming up at the end of the year as well.
That's so interesting. So interesting to hear about the music piece as well, especially when you talk about how when you were a teenager and what the music done for you in your life, listening to music. So that's really
Yeah.
interesting to hear, actually. Super cool. Um, what would you say has been your proudest achievement so far?
Um, Proudest achievement. That's really, I don't know. I'd say writing the book. I'd say writing the book. Um, yeah, allowing myself on this journey to be educated as I go, because I'm learning whilst I'm doing this book, not only through like the content but the experience of trying to do this in action. So it's like, okay, we talk about implementing Black history, but whilst we're doing it, what are the lessons that I can learn and put into this book? So it's like that process of just being still, and I think writing. So I'm really proud of that. Um, yeah, and setting up the Black curriculum, like it took a lot of effort. I'm so proud of myself for that. So yeah.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah, and writing a book sounds like it's a very reflective thing to be doing as well. Learning your own, reflecting and writing down your stuff in the book. That's so cool. All right. And last question before we go into some quick fire. Yeah. What do you want your
Okay.
legacy to be?
Oh. I would say my legacy that I desire is creative reflection and action for the youth. Yeah.
Creative reflection. What's that?
Yes. So it's one of my values. So when I think of creative reflection, it's like I'm not. Say you're walking down a street and you just keep buckling. Like you just keep every minute you're just buckling, buckling. Stop. Right. Take yourself to the side. And when I say like creative, it doesn't mean that you just literally stand still. It's like, okay, maybe I can look to the sky for that direction. So it's almost like using creativity as a lens to kind of just improve what you're doing as you go. So it's like it's essentially learning, but you're being creative with that. So creative reflection and action, because then you need to implement what you've just reflected on to change it. So yeah, I'd say creative reflection and action for the young people. Yeah.
Really cool. All right, that's perfect. Thank you so much. Perfect. All right, let's go into some quick fire. Yeah, I got
Okay.
got a few questions here for you.
Yep.
Whatever comes to your mind first, you can shout it out,
Okay.
and we go from there. All right, you good to go?
Yeah.
All right. First question: what's your favorite movie?
Um, Love and basketball.
Cool. All right. Favorite book?
How Europe underdeveloped Africa.
Cool. Name a song that you can never get bored of.
Um, is it Summer Soft? Stevie Wonder.
Okay, cool. All right. If you could only eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would you pick?
Plantain.
Ah, plantain.
Fair enough.
Well, we could have that debate all evening. All right. Next, how do you start your day?
um, with exercise.
All right. Name three people that inspire you.
Um, Olive Morris, my mum, and Jesus.
All right. What's the best advice you've ever received?
Uh, Approach everything as if it's gonna work.
Oh, I love that. All
Mm,
right. If you were to dedicate the rest of your life to one charitable cause, what would you pick?
the Black curriculum.
All right. Easy. What's the kindest thing that someone has ever done for you?
Oh, that's a nice one. Kindest thing. I think just taking the time to listen whilst no one else is listening. I had a good mentor, Natasha. Yeah,
Cool. All right. Shout out Natasha.
yeah.
And last question.
Hmm.
What's one thing people don't know about you?
that every time I squat, my knees crack.
Money is crack.
Yeah, they
Okay.
go, you know, your knees, you know, you can like,
Oh, your
yeah,
knees.
yeah,
Oh,
my knees.
I thought you said money, as in like money.
No,
So I thought, is that a song or something?
I'm so dumb. No, my knees, they go,
Oh
yeah,
my gosh. Wow.
yeah. I mean, it's not painful. It's just something that happens. Now I'm just like, you know, it's fine, whatever.
Well, as long as you're okay, as
You
long as you
know,
know what
I'm
you're
good.
doing.
I'm good.
All right, cool. Yeah, that's that, man. That's the interview done, man. Thank you so much. Really enjoyed this conversation
Oh,
with you, man.
same. It was
Yeah.
really good, and good questions. Thank
Oh,
you.
thank you. I said I was looking forward to it before we started because education is something I believe really strongly in, and I love what you and the team are doing as well. So,
Mm.
was looking forward to speaking with you and really enjoy speaking with you. So,
And again, thank you so much for being patient because I know you emailed back in like December for this.
oh, it's
So
good, man.
yeah,
It's good. Happy we made it work in the end. So that's all
yeah,
good.
same.
Um, Before we wrap up, if you got any last words you want to say, and also where can people keep up to date with what you and the team are doing as well?
So yes, Admitted you can find online at, you know, all bookstores, bookshops, and it's out spring 2023. You can pre-order it. You can find the Black Curriculum on theblackcurriculum.com, Twitter Curriculum Black, Instagram the Black Curriculum, and to get involved with us as recipients of programs that we're running, you can check out the website, and also encourage your schools, please encourage whoever has a teacher in their family, whoever has a student that's studying in their family, or if you are a student or a teacher, please check out the Black Curriculum, find out what your school is doing, get them to commit to making assurances that this is something that you're going to do for the rest of your life. And that's it.
Cool. All right, people. So that's that for today. That was Lavinia of the Black Curriculum. This is 1,000 Voices, and for now, people, we're out.
Yeah.
Okay, that was that. As always, thank you for tuning in. It is very much appreciated. And if you haven't already, please do consider subscribing to us or following us wherever you're listening to this right now. It really does help us in trying to amplify the voices of the people that we speak to. Also, what did you think about this episode? What did you gain from this episode? What were some of your key takeaways from this conversation? As always, it's always great to hear from you guys. So leave a comment, leave a review wherever you're listening to this right now. Let us know what you thought about this. The next podcast episode is going to be dropping next week, Tuesday, as they release every single Tuesday. So if you'd like to see some previews, a few little snippets from that, then follow us on our social media pages at 1000 Voices UK so that you can keep up to date with that before it comes out. The full YouTube video will drop a few days afterwards as well, so keep an eye out for that. But that's that for now. Thank you for tuning in. This is 1000 Voices, and for now, people, we're out.